Okay, we're joined by Coach Wommack. Same routine. We'll have him make his opening statement, and then we'll take questions. Please raise your hand and leave them up for me if you can. Coach?
Okay. Yeah, obviously, disappointing to come away with a loss, and with a group of guys that played very hard, very physical in the game, left it all out on the field. We asked a lot of our experienced players, asked a lot of some young players that had to step up in some big moments, and I thought our players played extremely hard. So it's always challenging. The game does not always reward you for your effort, and our guys certainly recognize the reward and consequence of wins and losses, and how hard you have to be able to continue to work through adversity. I thought they had a really good mentality, took great ownership, us as coaches, them as players, together as a football team, in terms of identifying the things that we've got to continue to build in consistency, so that we can have success in the end and find a way to win. We had 11 game changers. We had 3 takeaways, 3 sacks, 3 3-and-outs, and then 2 4th-down stops in the way of missed field goals that we were able to kind of hold in that high red zone area. I thought we actually stopped the run well outside of 3 explosive plays, and so you look up, obviously the yardage is not what we want, but you look at how they got those yards. It wasn't 7-8 yards a carry. It was 3 explosive plays given up, one of them obviously being a quarterback scramble. One of them we were able to create a takeaway on, and then a misfit, a misleverage, we let a guy outside, and they were able to hit a 35-yard chunk on us. So those are things that have to continue to work to get cleaned up. I think that's some of the consistency and execution that we have to continue to provide and build, that we're not there yet, and those explosives obviously are costly. For us, discipline to do your job over and over again is the key, especially against a team like that that can create explosive plays. I thought there were a lot of great things to point to, but ultimately, you look at it, our goal of the week was 12 game changers. We got 11. It kind of felt like that was the game, is we ultimately needed one more stop. We needed one more play from a defensive perspective in order to win the game, and we came up short. Those are hard things to deal with as a team, but our players, I think, are ready to go to work and to respond, and some young players that have stepped up last week and are going to be asked to step up moving forward as well, and so I think they're all ready for the challenge. I talked to the players yesterday. All that should be on our minds is, what do we have to do to beat Missouri on Saturday? And anything outside of that is a distraction, and does not keep focus on the main thing. And ultimately, during adverse times, right, that's what you have to do, is keep the main thing, stay focused on the task at hand. And I think our guys are doing a really good job in that. Moving forward to Missouri, certainly a lot of familiar faces and I guess familiar schemes. Eli Drinkwitz and I have known each other for a long time. Both grew up in Northwest Arkansas. Their defensive coordinator, Corey Batoon, was my defensive coordinator at South Alabama for the last 3 years. Worked for my dad for a number of years. So obviously, system, scheme-wise, right, there's a lot of similarities. And then, very impressed with Kirby Moore and what they've done offensively. You see elements to what Drink has done over the years, under even going back to Gus Malzahn and some of the things that he was doing at App State and NC State, and then certainly you see a lot of the flavor even of some of the things we do offensively under Kirby Moore. And so a lot of formations. They're certainly explosive on the outside. A lot of different things and pictures that they're going to show you. They've got a really dynamic passing game with an experienced quarterback. I think the dude is a extremely tough player. To be able to go whatever it was, I think it was the second drive of the game, he was out, and then to come back in the third quarter and really, willed his team to win the game through running the football and scrambling, I thought was really impressive, coming off of an injury. So impressed by their team, impressed by their toughness and their grit, and we'll certainly have a tremendous challenge on Saturday that we're working very hard to make sure we maximize our opportunities.
All right, thanks, Coach. Let's start with Charlie Potter on the right here.
Yeah, hey Coach, you mentioned Missouri's ability for explosives downfield. Just how concerning is it when you see wide receivers kind of get open deep on a consistent basis? Like, what do you do to fix that?
I think, I think for us, right, making sure that you have layers to what you're doing defensively. You want to make sure that you're staying on top of routes. There's times, right, where you're going to challenge routes in the first 10 yards. And so there's different ways of being able to defend the deep ball. So sometimes you want to stay on top of the route. Sometimes you want to defend it right where you're challenging things in the first 10 yards. And even though you may be, step for step with a guy or whatever it may be, you've disrupted the timing of the route to eliminate some of the deep threats as well. And I think, those are the things that you've got to just continue to be able to harp and work in and mix it. And pressure is most certainly a huge piece to being able to defend some of the long throws downfield as well.
We have 2 questions on the left side. We go to Chase and then Colin.
You mentioned at the top some young guys had to step in and play football. I assume 2 of those you're talking about are King Mack and Bray Hubbard. How did they play in your opinion?
Well, I thought Bray really did some great things in the game. Obviously had a huge 3rd down stop when we needed to go 3 and out in that scenario right there and get the ball back for our offense, and he made a hell of a play. I thought he did some really good things in the game. King was asked to do a tough deal. He's played multiple positions, both our field safety and our nickel, the Husky position, and I thought he battled his tail off and made some plays, and ultimately I know he would have loved to have had that last touchdown back, but there's some things that we've got to be able to continue to clean up from a fundamental standpoint in man coverage that he did in certain plays, but ultimately a heck of a play by their team, not taking anything away from it, but certainly he and us would love to have that last touchdown back.
Colin?
Kind of on top of that, I mean, Keon's and Devonta Smith haven't left the field much for you guys, and I'm curious, with what Bray did, with what King did, and some of the other guys that you mentioned, like what did you learn about your DB depth after the Tennessee game, and kind of how much it is?
Well, I think I think there's always a next man up mentality. Those guys have to be ready at a moment's notice. You talk about those things. You have a sense of urgency in practice. That the guys that are rolling with the 2s have to know that at any given moment, right, they could step in and have major impact on a game. Certainly a game like this where you had a number of DBs that went down, you can point to this to say, hey, this is why it's so critical, right, that you have the same level of urgency that the guy that may be going out with a starting defense, because at any given moment, right, you're going to come in and have a tremendous impact on the game one way or another, whether you're prepared for it or not. And so certainly I think our young guys, they seem to do that in practice. They have an urgency to be able to get in. Bray Hubbard was a great example of that. Goes about his business, workmanlike every single day, and really prepares with an expectation that he's going to go in, and he produced at a really high level. But it's certainly an opportunity for us to be able to point towards how critical practice habits have to show up one way or another in games.
Go right in the middle here, Mike.
How would you describe what happened on that illegal substitution penalty where it looked like Mully was pushed King and then he went down?
Yeah, I mean, guys, obviously, we tell guys if you're injured or if you're hurt or if you're, pulling up with a cramp, you got to go down in that situation. We're not able to substitute someone when a team is going fast, and so if you're injured, the protocol there is for a guy to go down, and I think we were able. Our training room does a tremendous job, and we got a guy back after however long it was.
Any other questions for Coach? So finish up with Katie here on the left.
And talked after the game, about this team hasn't or struggled to play complete football on both sides of the ball, and the offense is doing well, the defense maybe isn't, and vice versa. I know you're just in charge of one side of the ball, but maybe why do you think that is, and how can that change that this team can play complete football?
That's a great question. I mean, those are the things that's the secret sauce, right? How do we play team football, offense, defense, special teams, collectively together to maximize our opportunity to win? You're going to have moments, right, where one side of the ball versus another may be executing better on any given moment. the most ideal thing is that we're all hitting on all cylinders, you know, for 4 quarters, but that rarely happens in a game or in a season. I think as you look at this, there are no excuses, right? The standard is the standard, and you have to find a way to win, and you have to find a way to play complementary football across the board. But these are some of the growing pains that we're going to deal with and continue to work through as a football team. But I think there's a ton of confidence in our players and coaches, and knowing that we are taking steps in a direction to be able to have great team chemistry. I think Kalen does a tremendous job with the culture of our program, the buy-in from our players. And when you have adverse situations like this, it's always about how you respond, and I think our guys have done a really good job in terms of their response, talking to them yesterday, and then certainly the demeanor that they have this morning.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks guys, roll tide.